we started to charge them and to charge the clients. But item number one here, I would still call them as small projects or small business. The one that made us become stronger was on the customized client needs. In other words, instead of just selling what you have behind you, you should go to the client and develop real need for that particular client, like the one that we did for the government. Instead of just selling, for example, the skills and the various encryption product we have, we actually went to the government and said, this is what you should have. And this is how big the problem is, and this is how big the solution is, and this is how big it will cost you. And the government said, okay, I'm okay with that. So to me, the second point here, the customized client needs, made a lot more revenue than just the small activities in the first point. And as a company, we were following this concept of what I call the security boutique. In other words, people could come to us and we will do everything about information security and information assurance to them, right from the soft side of managing security, in other words, stuff like developing policies, framework, procedures, and all those management issues, until even to the other end, which is very much on the very technical sides, like doing forensics, hardening, and even providing encryption suites for their various problems. So we were presenting ourselves to the market very much as a security boutique. A security boutique where a one-stop center on information security. People come to us, they can get everything. Of course, we will not be able to do everything because we were still quite young, but being given a job, quickly you will turn back and look for those who as well can support and complement you to deliver the job. In terms of strength and branding, we were very vendor independent. We will not stick to one particular vendor and carry that particular product. We will be very vendor independent in the sense that if the client wants something, we will say that these are the available brands that can go with this. You can choose whatever you like, but if you want our recommendation, fine, we can recommend you. So staying vendor independent make us, I guess, also becoming more trustable by the clients. We emphasized on indigenousness initially. I mentioned initially because information security or information assurance is a field, is an area that eventually for a particular organization, for a particular country, you would want your own people to do it. You don't want others to manage your security, of course. The one that you trust most are your own people. So when we were doing jobs or projects for the Malaysian government and for the Malaysian companies, especially the government, indigenousness was a selling point because the government said, yes, we want you guys to be doing it. We don't want to outsource the job to people that we don't know or people that we don't trust as much as we trust you. But as we go to the private, as we went to the private sector and as we went international, indigenousness is not a selling point anymore because as you go international, you have to be open about it. You would have to prescribe or suggest architecture which is meant to be more open as far as the solutions that you are pushing. But indigenousness, I think, is a selling point which can work in any country. I'm sure for the Center of Excellence on Information Assurance here, one of your targets would be to develop citizens of this country whom you will eventually trust to look after the security of this nation, to look after the various critical infrastructure of this nation. We also emphasize on professional certifications and continuous learning. The company really pushed and almost forced the staff to go away and do professional certification. And the company would sponsor the staff to go and sit for professional certification training, and eventually sit for the exams. And they are sort of held by some kind of bonding or contract. They will not leave the company for a certain period after the company has sponsored them to do the various certifications. Among our strength as well is the continuous R&D that we had in the group. The group initially existed as an R&D group in the university, and when we went to become, or when we became an incorporated company, the core group that was there still continue with the R&D. And R&D for us is really the differentiating factor between us and many other smaller companies or companies that also want to do the same, like what we did. We take pride in our specialty, and we emphasize trust to the client. And eventually, we were accepted and recognized internationally. Okay, some lessons that I can share here. Number one is, it was not difficult for us to accept the fact that we as technopreneurs, we lack the corporate knowledge. I was not good in investor relations. I didn't know how to get people to really become excited to put money into the company. I was probably good in supervising my students or leading them to where the research should be, but I knew that as a technopreneur, I needed somebody else to complement me in this area. But we also had to be very careful, because I saw in some of the companies that were also like us, technopreneurs were easy targets of vultures. Vultures, I mean, here are the people who portray themselves as angel investors or people who want to invest in the company. But in the end, they actually swindle the technopreneurs. When the company go for listing, most of the money actually went to the vultures, and the technology people who usually only play with the technology, they are left with little share of the cake. This is based on what I experienced. I mean, it didn't happen to us, but I saw it happening with a few other companies, and I noticed that many of the corporate people are actually vultures. They're not really angel as they are seen to be. Quality is critical, the kind of deliverable and things that you give to your client, and continuous improvement is also equivalent to survival to us. I was cautioned by Dr. Khalid not to turn this into a promotion of the company. So I'm trying to be very academic and purely speaking about experience here. I hope I haven't been seen to be promoting the company. The HQ is now in Malaysia. The staff is about 200 with 65 certified professionals. We have presence in Asia, Indonesia, and Korea is one of our latest R&D partner. We are developing new techniques in UTM, Unified Threat Management, and we observe that Korea is one country that is quite good in this. In fact, the Korean came and wanted to work with us, so we said, it's okay, we also will work with you. And we have presence as well in the Middle East. Reputation is important. So the individuals and the company must build credibility. I don't want to show many of the awards or credentials that we had. We had credentials from Department of Homeland in the US. We had credentials from Microsoft. We were winners of Frost & Sullivan's Best Managed Security Provider for 2 years, and a few other awards. But the point that I wanted to say is reputation is something that will carry you a lot more or a lot further. Grab the best brains. We knew that we have to continuously get the best brains. And one of the things to do this is to sponsor hacking competitions, hacking in the box, capture the flag, black hat, and so on. And from these activities, we could actually see who or which of the about to be graduating students are the best brains in the country. And we will quickly grab them and offer them jobs in our company.